All right, I'm going to jump right into Nuggets versus Timberwolves. Thoughts going into this game, and I have my notes down here. So, after game one, no way the Nuggets are going to blow 2 games in a row, let alone lose 2 home games in a row. Denver was a minus 278 to the Timberwolves plus 225 when you go look at the money lines before the game. And once I heard the Gobert news, I thought to myself, this game is in the bag for the Nuggets. And it's just going to be Jokic and Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. just feasting inside, because you're thinking there goes the rim protection and the size advantage is now in favor of the Nuggets. And I'm thinking, after a loss, they're thinking about this is a must-win game because you don't want to go down 0-2 and then have to go play the next 2 on the road at Minnesota. The very first play was Jokic and Aaron Gordon just kind of forcing their way inside versus Kyle Anderson and Cat. And just watching that first play from the Nuggets, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a 40-point Jokic game or, a monster Aaron Gordon game. There was another play shortly after where Jokic just knocks down Cat and then scores the easy 2. And it just made me feel even more confident about the outcome of the game. The Nuggets were deliberately trying to take advantage of that size with Jokic, Aaron Gordon, and I want to say it made them look predictable, which is an interesting part of this entire game because they're forcing bully ball and guys are standing around outside of the three-point line just kind of waiting for Jokic and Aaron Gordon to get something going. And when Jokic then tries to kick it out, okay, let's deal with this perimeter defense by the Timberwolves, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. It's like they were trapped by their own advantage, and it ended up killing their offensive rhythm. Because once the bully ball stuff wasn't working, guys just weren't ready to adapt. Nuggets just uncharacteristically took forever to get anything going on offense. It's just a lot of standing around. I just feel like they were shocked by the difficulty of what they thought would be their advantage, if that makes any sense. Because it looked like they never recovered from when they realized, oh, this is going to be a little bit harder than we thought. And then there's a Jamal Murray side of this where he is just ridiculously frustrated throughout the entire game. Almost every other play, he is complaining to refs, looking for calls, almost playing completely outside of himself in search of foul calls, and just being visibly frustrated throughout the entire game. We know about him throwing the towel, throwing the heat pack. Even Michael Malone walks out on the court just like really upset. And it just didn't look like the defending champs to me in that game. They really looked out of character. And I think that also speaks to how the Minnesota Timberwolves are able to get in their opponent's head because of how hard they play. We know the Timberwolves have the best defensive efficiency in the regular season. And a team like that in the playoffs, where less calls are going to be made and the pace is slower in the playoffs, it's going to benefit the Timberwolves. So it almost looked like the Nuggets were surprised that they're not getting the calls they're used to. And I'm thinking to myself, you guys should know that you're going to have to play through a lot of these moments where you feel like you might be getting hit here and there. This team is lanky. This team is physical. They're a great defensive team. And they go out there almost thinking they're just going to get every foul call. And a lot of those calls, maybe they get missed, maybe they don't. But at the same time, it just felt strange for this whole team to just kind of collapse. It was looking like another bad first half for Jamal Murray before he finally got some points to go in the second quarter. So here's some stats for Jokic in this series. 24 points, 12 rebounds, 8.5 assists, which looks great. But then you look at the efficiency, right? 42% from the field, 20% from 3, 5.5 turnovers, totally out of his element. Overthinking when to shoot, pass, or put the ball down and try to get to the rim. It's almost like these Timberwolves are really playing with Jokic's mind, and it's working. I've never seen Jokic rushed when he shouldn't be rushed. I've never seen him second guess making a pass. I just always am so used to him just making things happen without thinking, unless he's just thinking so fast that he's doing it. But it just feels like he knows a pass is available, but he's thinking twice and maybe even 3 times before he throws it. And then by the time he decides to throw it, it's too late, and then it ends up being a turnover, or he doesn't throw it at all, and now he has to put up a shot with no time left in the clock. It's like a really foreign experience for me as someone that loves watching Jokic and someone that advocates for how smart he is of a player. And we all know he's one of the smartest players in the game. And it really looks like the Timberwolves are getting to his head. You know, looking at Murray in this series, even worse. 12.5 points. He's at 28% from the field, 25% from three. This dude is really struggling to get anything going. I don't know what they're going to do with Murray. He does feel comfortable taking tough shots, which is always a good thing. But I do feel like they're going to have to find other ways to get him involved off the ball, because it feels like when he has the ball, he's trying so hard to get that foul call. He's not getting it, and that plays to the Timberwolves' favor because they're just going to keep coming at you. They got guys that are going to use all their fouls. Cat, for better or worse, he's going to play pretty physically, and he gets called for a lot of fouls because of it, but this team is not going to leave fouls on the board, which I think is very valuable, and it does speak to some of the best defensive teams in the NBA, which are teams that are not afraid to use up their fouls. Using all of your fouls is pretty damn crucial to getting the most out of how much you can cross that line before an official whistles. Then we look at KCP, 5 points, 40% from the field, 33% from three, and he's just getting cooked on defense, which, you know, you're putting him on Ant, and it's just not working. Nobody can guard Ant, and putting KCP on him, it was interesting to see for a couple of games, but clearly it's just not going to work, and KCP just hasn't been good. The ground is collapsing underneath the Denver Nuggets, and it's a combination of injuries, frustration. They're facing a Timberwolves team that's just really good. I would say the best playoff team right now, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but the Nuggets are such a good team that when they were down 78-48, I still thought to myself, like, you know, there's a chance. You know, maybe all the shots start to fall. Jokic starts to go crazy, making every single thing, but that never came. And the Timberwolves did not take their foot off the gas. They didn't play with their food. Hats off to the Timberwolves for just putting their foot on the Nuggets' neck, kicking them while they're down, not giving an inch of hope, and taking care of business on the road without Rudy Gobert, which I'm going to get into now. This was the best defensive game I've seen in like 15 years. Maybe ever. I don't know. They held a historically good Nuggets offense to 80 points last night. Cat and Ant were awesome. First and foremost, we know Ant has been amazing. He was the best player yet again. And Cat was just unbelievable. Defensively taking the challenge, stepping up and just picking up Jokic, no problem, showing up offensively. I respect Cat so much. My respect level for Cat has grown so much this season alone. I kind of gave up on him as a player because I felt like Cat was just this guy that's got so much potential. He's such a good player, but boneheaded plays, he fouls a lot, he's a little immature at times, and here he is, Robin to Ant-Man's Batman. It couldn't be a better match. This dude knows his role on this team as the second best player, and he has fully taken that. Then I get to Naz Reid, who couldn't get anything to fall around the rim, but he was killing the Nuggets from three, and more importantly, defensively. Just stepping up to the challenge as well on Jokic whenever he had that matchup. There was a huge sequence in the second quarter where he goes toe-to-toe with him in the post, blocks him the first time. I think Conley got a hand on the second attempt, and then Naz just contests the last try for the stop. Naz Reid just had incredible moments defensively and hitting timely threes, just so deserving of Sixth Man of the Year. Such an important player for this Timberwolves team. Then there's Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who was just excellent on both sides of the floor, knocking down big shots, playing some serious defense that we know he always plays. The way that he can block shots or strip shots on the way up, keep the ball in play, it is so valuable because so often you see guys that get blocks, they don't care where the ball goes, they just smack it away and they get the stat and they're happy with it. This dude is trying to keep it in play, to actually make the stop and turn it into some offense. And obviously, like I said before, the shot making, it's just so demoralizing right? Like he's getting those stops, and then the ball finds him during the flow of the offense, and he just makes these corner three after corner three, just killing opposing teams for being late to the rotation on him. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker is just another one of these super valuable guys on this team. Then there's Mike Conley, who just vet on this team. He's seen it all. He's been through it all. Wasn't good offensively in this game, but he's making the right passes. He's playing such good defense. He's reading the out-of-bounds plays for the Nuggets, and he's reacting in a timely manner, making the right decisions. Like I said, just so good in this game. And the offensive stats aren't going to show, but man, he just gets the ball where it needs to go, and he gets out of the way when his teammates are just balling. He knows when he's needed, and this was not the game they needed him offensively, so he did everything else to help secure the win. I can't forget Jaden McDaniels, a guy that hasn't been good offensively in this series, but the box score doesn't always show the type of impact that this guy has on this team. And I want to show some clips because little things like this, where he's on Porter Jr. in full ball denial, right? Not an inch of space was wasted, switching onto Murray to continue to deny the ball and just creating those delays, milking precious time from Denver's shot clock. It was just so important, and it's something that will get lost because unfortunately when you watch the highlights, you're only going to watch buckets, and those kind of little things, if you only look at a box score, you're going to think, he had a couple of blocks, a couple of steals, but, he was trash on offense. Like, I know so many people that know he's a defender, but they look at the steals and blocks and say, he's only got a couple. So, no, he is affecting the game, just being in the right place at the right time, using his length, using that wingspan to deny opportunities like passing windows, even if they don't lead to shots. It's almost like because he's standing in a certain place, a pass just isn't made, and then the Nuggets are forced to just go somewhere else because Jaden McDaniels is nearby. I think that is incredibly valuable, and it sucks that you can't really see that on a box score, but just watching a clip like that, you understand what I'm talking about. Now, I am so impressed with Minnesota's defense. It is staggering, and it overshadows how great this team has been on offense. When you mention the Timberwolves, you talk about defense. And yes, that is their calling card, but they've been the number one offense in these playoffs so far. And I think that is very impressive to me because it's almost like that's what's missing. That was the argument that people would use against the Timberwolves, myself included, other than like mistakes, bonehead plays that we know are with the growing pains when you have such a young group of guys at times. Like, yeah, they've got vets, but they do have their best player as a 22-year-old. So you do think about those things. You also think about the mishaps with Cat historically. So it just feels like this team is good offense away from being a champion, and they're showing it in these playoffs that not only are they going to be good offensively, they've been the best team on offense, and they're doing it against a really good Denver Nuggets team. They're just looking like the team to beat so far. It's that simple. You look at the Celtics, right? Like, if I go through these teams, they beat the Heat. They had a little hiccup, right? But then they have that KP injury that I'm kind of worried about. We don't know what that really is going to be like. If it's a lingering thing, if, we don't really know the timetable for that. We don't know how much that's going to linger around. So I am closely monitoring that. I am worried about that if I'm the Celtics. Then you look at the Cavs. They almost choked their first round series against a very tough Orlando Magic team. It took 7 games to beat the Orlando Magic, who, by the way, were like 24th in offense this season. Like, they couldn't buy shots. The Cavs were so lucky that Franz can't shoot and basically everyone else can't shoot. And that alone was the difference in that series. Like, if Franz just shoots like average from 3, like I've said before, they beat the Cavs pretty handedly. So, Cavs are like, we don't really think much about them. We look at the Knicks. They earned their wins in that first round. Tough team. They're not going to go out easy. They're going to get the most out of their guys. But, Embiid was hurt. Now they're playing the Pacers, which we probably would argue is the weakest team out of all the teams that are left, right? Then we look at OKC, right? They beat the Pelicans, who, let's be honest, not the biggest challenge without Zion. And I don't say that lightly because I do think it was a challenge. A lot of people saying Valanciunas was going to slow them down and he was going to cause some problems. But it goes to show that, hey, it's going to take more than just size. You have to be skilled. You have to be able to keep up with us offensively, which the Pelicans definitely couldn't do. So OKC has their real challenge, in my opinion, right now against the Mavericks. So going to be closely watching that as well. You look at the Mavs, they beat the Clippers, but it's like the same Clippers story where it's like no Kawhi. You know, Kawhi's hurt again. So that's another team that I feel hasn't really been challenged yet. And then there's Minnesota, who I've obviously talked about this whole video. This team beats the Suns, who people are saying, the Suns just suck. And, that's hindsight. A lot of people felt that way about the Suns already, but they dominated the Suns. Like, they did what they were supposed to. And I think that they did it in a way that was so convincing. You never thought, even if the Suns were good in that series, that they would even get out of there alive. And here they are up 2-0 against the defending champs. And it is a very convincing 2-0. It's not like, end of game shot, buzzer beater, they got lucky on some things. They have really looked like the better team in both of these games. Hasn't even really looked that close. And it looks very concerning for the Denver Nuggets. Do I think it's over? No. You're going to have to earn every single win against the Nuggets, and the Timberwolves know this. They have a golden opportunity to end this series at home. Now let's see if the Denver Nuggets have anything left in them.